Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Data Flowcast. I'm your host, Kenton Danis, and today I'm joined by Vasyl Vasyuta, who is an R&D Team Leader at Optimove. Vasyl, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. I'm good. Yeah, it's been a while since we chatted. Are you gearing up for the holidays or
A lot of work, I'm a bit hardworking person, so yeah,
Airflow all the time?
yeah, almost.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, love to talk about that. So, I guess we'll go ahead and dive in. So for our listeners for today's podcast, we're going to discuss how Optimove uses Airflow to power their data processing and machine learning models. Seal, let's start with a bit of background about Optimove. So, I understand that you are a customer-led marketing platform. Tell me more about what that means and what Optimove does.
Yeah, sure. Since we are a marketing platform, we are sending marketing notifications to customers of our clients, which we are calling brands. And why we are a customer-led platform? Because we deeply believe that to reveal all the power of marketing, you should think about your customer first. Namely, you should create specific and original journey for each of your customer, depending on their preferences, on their personality, et cetera, as their behavior. And yeah, this is what we are exactly doing. Speaking technically, so this is like a business aim, but speaking technically, how it's looking like on high level. So at each stage of our processing pipeline, we are splitting users into different groups regarding their preferences, some personality or behavior. And this is how we create original, original journey for each customer.
Okay, interesting. So I imagine that grouping is very data driven. So we'll get into that. And maybe related to my next question. So what is your role as the R&D team leader? What does your team do for the business?
Yeah, definitely. Optimum is a big product and we have a lot of responsibilities there. And our responsibility is to find the best campaign for each customer. What it means. Campaign of it's like a rule. What to send and to whom send and when. And for our biggest tenants, we have thousands of campaigns for all customers. It can be even 5,000 of different campaigns. And we should split these campaigns to all customers. And of course, if since you have tens and even hundreds millions of customers, that statistically there will be customers that will be eligible to hundreds campaigns or even thousands campaigns. Of course, that bombarding them with such amount of emails or SMS or push notifications will be a nightmare for users. Our aim, our goal is to find the best campaign for each customer.
Okay, that's great. And so where does Airflow fit into that? And how you use Airflow for your data orchestration, I'd imagine. Like I said before, that a lot of that grouping of customers is data driven. So tell me a little bit more about how that works.
Yeah, exactly. And here it is a point where Airflow is it's one of our main tools. As I told, we have really big data because we have hundreds of millions of customers. And of course, ordinary relational database cannot serve such a load. We're using Snowflake. We write storage procedures in Snowflake, but storage procedure is a good, but you need to orchestrate them somehow. And in this point, Airflow is a really nice orchestrator. Honestly, when we were choosing one or something to orchestrate, some tool, we make quite intense research of different orchestrators that are on the market. Yeah. And in what we found, and we deeply believe that Airflow is a leader on market right now. So that's why we started to use Airflow. Backing to like our architecture. So what we have Airflow, we have tens of DAGs, to be honest, because we have a lot of possibilities and each DAG is doing something, its own job. And mainly DAG orchestrates storage procedures. We have DAGs with complicated topology. We have branching. We have a lot of things, and also created some infrastructure things that are really helpful for us. For example, we have something which is called joystick concept. Namely, we can move back and forth in time and replay all the data that we processed. And this is like a plugin for Airflow, and it is converted to Snowflake storage procedure and the developers who is creating storage procedure, he even didn't think about it because it is fully powered by Airflow. It's a nice thing. Also, we have something like feature flag support and other cool things that is integrated deeply with Airflow.
Cool. That's really interesting. So you have the plugin on Airflow exists so that not all of your users have to actually develop their own DAGs. They just write the stored procedures in Snowflake, and then the DAG creation is going on behind the scenes for them.
Some part, because yeah, definitely need to define which storage procedure will be run after each, and this is something that you cannot avoid to create. But there is some infrastructure that is added behind the scene, and you shouldn't think about it because it is out of the box, something like that.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. And so, in terms of what the DAGs are actually doing, I think I understand from speaking with you before that you're orchestrating some machine learning models, and those might help with the grouping of your customers. Is that the case?
Yes, machine learning models is all of that. We started development of machine learning models at something like a year ago, at least our team and our group, because we have the team of data scientists within our company, but they are working on separate features, and they are not doing execution like we do. Yes, and yeah, what we are doing exactly about machine learning model. We need to predict how each customer will behave in the future. For example, how customer was behaving 1 week ago, during past 1 week, and we know all the history how customers were behaving for the whole brand. And we made something like reinforcement learning, and based on data, we can predict what will be with each specific customer i- in the next week, for example, when he will buy something, when he will churn potentially, or something like that. Of course, we cannot say that we know what a specific customer will do, but statistically, we have very nice precision. Yes, and this exactly help us to understand when and to whom it's better to send a campaign, because we have like when I'm talking campaign at the beginning of our meeting, I told that this is like a rule to whom, when, and what to send. But in fact, we have really mature and seasoned business layer of that, and under campaign, it's not only a rule. We have different A/B testing there. We have auto priority and a lot of stuff there. So it's quite a complicated machine. And yeah, our machine learning models, they help us to understand what will be with customer and what exactly campaigns should be sent to some customers at least. We are running it ad hoc. Namely, we have our process of campaign execution, let's say, and when we run this process, as part of this process, we have this reinforcement learning. Because this model is relatively simple, runs of each model requires from 5 minutes to half an hour time. That's why we can add this learning into our pipeline.
Yeah, interesting. And so you use Airflow to orchestrate all that. We've seen a lot more Airflow use for kind of this MLOps use case in the last couple of years. What made you choose Airflow for this use case? It sounds like you used Airflow already previously, and then about a year ago, this was a new use case. So I assume you already had that Airflow infrastructure set up.
Yes, exactly. And we have a lot of infrastructure for Airflow. And we also have a lot of infrastructure from DevOps side. We have robust pipelines with different unit testing, with integration testing, etc., etc. So we have a lot of stuff. And our ops, for example, they also know how to work with Airflow. They can read logs. They can make rollbacks by ourselves. And that's why Airflow became as part of our infrastructure, not only technical infrastructure, but also from the point of view of ops or reliability team, etc., which is also very important.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And so your team works very closely with your data science team who you said is doing more of the feature development and less of the actual writing of the pipelines. Is that right?
now for the last couple of months, we have our own data scientists. So in the future, we expect more machine learning and Airflow in Airflow. Yeah,
Got it. So a growing use case then.
big because it brings benefits. It gives fruits. That's why not to use it.
Yeah, that's great. So you talked a little bit already about some customizations that you've made to Airflow, and I think I've learned that one other thing that you've done on top of kind of the core Airflow is to add your own form of DAG versioning. So tell me a little bit more about that. What prompted you guys to make that customization, and how does that work?
Yeah, sure. In fact, when we see some tool like or framework like Airflow, we're thinking when we can use it and how we can use it because we know how to use it. And as I told previously, we are using it for machine learning models, but it's not all. We are using it for data pipelines. And we are crazy enough to run it very frequently. What it means frequently. We know that there are use cases, there are best practices for using some orchestrators like Airflow for long-running tasks, etc., that data pipelines. But our goal is to run each dog for each tenant once per 5 minutes. Namely, if we have almost 1,000 tenants, 1,000 brands, and we want to, at peak load, we want to execute 1,000 dogs per 5 minutes. And you can imagine that having such a load and having some issue with deployment, with configuration, or with whatever, and resolving this issue potentially can take some time. And yes, and waiting for this time when our CI/CD pipelines run and all these automated tests will be executed again, namely rollback can, as it is, can take some time. That's why we want to have an ability to quick rollback of our docs. So there are different options. Okay, yes, we can just take old version of old files of doc and put it in docs folder. Yes, it's true. It can be done. And why do we need to add versioning if we can do if it is so simple? But there are other restrictions. For example, I mentioned that we have a reliability team, and we want our reliability team to be able to do that. We also want it to be like automatic to minimize human errors, and because there is probability that you can take not the correct files and you will break again, so something like that. And instead of just replacing files, we started to think about having different versions. But how you can have versions in Airflow? So definitely you need to change name. So we are adding, we have like a doc name and we add some suffix, version 1, version 2, etc., etc., etc. But the problem here is that our docs are triggered externally by other clients, by other docs or other services, and they are calling docs by name. And how to resolve the issue? Okay, we decided to create something like facing doc, something like it is load balancer, but it's not load balancer, but rather version balancer. We created a plugin for our CI/CD pipelines, and this plugin takes original doc, it replaces a name, adding versions, and it builds a special facing doc, which is doc agnostic, which is business agnostic, which fits any doc that we have. And it deploys different versions of docs, like my doc version 1, my doc version 2, etc., but also this facing doc. And this facing doc knows which doc it should use. It patches the same payload, everything looks the same from external clients. Also, and it is controlled by our version management system. So, and options know, they know how to use this version management system. It's really easy for them. Also, there is one more problem that is solved with this approach, with this like versioning. We can have gradual rollout. Imagine that you are rolling out new doc, new version with new feature or whatever, and you want to open this feature only to specific tenants only. And you also can do this by using version management system, because this is exactly what this system is intended to do. And this is like additional benefits that we gain from having this facing dark. Yeah, this is our solution. And to summarize how it's looking, so we created a CI/CD plugin, and this plugin fits any DAG that we have, and it just in CI/CD pipeline, it just makes some manipulation with files, with renamings, and voila, everything is working. And devs even don't know what is going on there. They are working locally with their local DAG without versions. It's something like it.
Yeah, that's really cool. It makes me think of our own data team who we interviewed on the show a couple months ago has something similar. It's not to control DAG versioning, but they refer to it as a control DAG that sort of helps provide observability into all of their many DAGs. So when there's a failure, they can more easily recover. So having this like DAG that kind of sits in the middle, that's controlled from outside of Airflow to sort of orchestrate everything is a similar solution. So, yeah, that's really interesting. I can totally see where versioning would be very important in the case where you've got such a high volume with such frequency. Thousands of DAGs running every 5 minutes is, I imagine, would be very difficult to recover from if something went wrong. I'm curious, since you mentioned that you're required to, change the names of the DAGs for the different version, which I think is a workaround for the fact that Airflow itself doesn't have DAG versioning currently. Does that provide or does that cause any issues with like maintaining the history of your DAG run? So you have your DAG that controls, the naming for the triggering, but I assume once you change the name, the old DAG is gone, right? Or do you maintain them all in the UI, or how does that work?
Yes, nice question. And we were thinking about it. So we are keeping 5 versions of Docker, and we can do it even more because this number definitely is configurable number. And if we have 5 dogs, historical 5 dogs, we have logs for them. And when after some time we are removing dogs, probably history is not important for now. And no issues with log from that perspective. Um, but what we experience issue with logging, because names is part of logs, and since we are changing name will be different, and you will see a different service in Datadog and in any other logging system. But we also solve the issue. So having different names, it brings some complexities in other places, but this can be solved.
Yeah, gotcha. Are you aware of the DAG versioning feature that is being added for Airflow 3.0?
Yeah, sure. We are waiting for it, and probably we will use it here and
Okay, so you think
moving
you'll
out our
migrate to
custom.
that?
You'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. Because I tried to find, but I wasn't able to find exact documentation how it will be look like.
Yeah, often the AIPs are a little bit vague to give them, some wiggle room once they do start the development. But I know Astronomer is leading the development of that feature, and we're really excited about it. It's been consistently like the top feature requested on the Airflow survey for the last couple of years. So lots of teams really want DAG versioning. You're the first person I've talked to that has implemented such a sophisticated solution for it, where it seems like it's working pretty well for you now. Cool. Well, maybe not, but that will lead me into my last question, which I always ask to everybody who joins us, and that is, what is one thing that you would most like to see from the Airflow project in the near future? It
Okay.
can be
Uh,
DAG versioning if you want, or something else.
Definitely it is dark version because we need it. Uh, but also, usually, so I have a lot of interviews. I'm looking for some people into my team, and I, I like I like to ask questions. Tell me about technology and like some limitations of this technology. And since you are working with Airflow, I'm asking, okay, you have experience in Airflow, so tell me what you want to have, or where did you struggle, something like that. And honestly, no one can, no one answered something huge or something like that. I don't know. Maybe not enough experience, uh, but yeah, so something like feedback from the people that I interviewed. From my point of view, I believe Airflow is really a rich framework, and I believe Airflow is leader on the market within different orchestrators. When I'm using some tool, some framework, I usually I don't think about what I want to see in this framework because I know what the framework can do, and I'm trying to use it somewhere in my architecture, something like that. But what I was struggling with the most with Airflow, I can say, except versioning, I can say probably two small things. First of all, since we are trying to run Airflow so frequently, like 1,000 times per 5 minutes, we show some like some struggling, some throttling, something like that, some throttling, something like that on the scales. And we investigated the issue, and we found that Postgres, which is under the hood of Airflow, Postgres is a bottleneck for us. So probably, yes, probably if it is possible to improve performance on Postgres, maybe optimizing the schema or adding some indexes that will be helpful at these scales. So it will really help us. And another thing that that I would like to have, imagine that you have DAG and you have logs. And logging in Airflow is uh, a bit more complicated than it is in pure Python, of course, for sure. And what we want to have, each DAG has some attributes, let's call it. Some attributes are coming from parameters. Some attributes maybe are coming from XCOM or whatever. Namely, in our case, one attribute is tenant ID, tenant name, and something like that, which is part of our parameters that we pass to Airflow. And what we would like to have is to have an ability to configure Airflow to add these parameters as log properties, something like that. Because we have message, we can configure how a message can look like, but also we would like to have it like a separate facets in Datadog or something like that. We found a custom solution. It's working production. It's working well. It is working for DAG, but not for DAG by itself. So logs from DAGs cannot be enriched with such kind of parameters, but we found a solution with tasks. So it is something that will be really helpful for us.
Okay, good. That's a good wish list. Very in the weeds. I'm a little surprised to hear that the folks you are interviewing. I love, by the way, that this is an interview question for you as well. that they're not giving you a lot of answers. I mean, maybe that's indicative of Airflow being fairly mature at this point. The last time I used Airflow in production myself was in a much earlier version before I worked for Astronomer, and I would have had a long list for you. Of this was back in probably I think I was on 1.9. Definitely a long list of requests, but maybe it's gotten a lot better. Interesting.
I believe that third version will be even more seasoned and mature. So, yeah, no
Yes.
doubt.
Yeah, we're excited for 3.0 for sure. Awesome. Well, I know we were about at time, so Vasyl, it was really great to have you on. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'll end with what is the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Uh, my email, my email, yeah, I can provide personal email. So feel free
Okay.
to reach me out whenever you need.
Okay. We can throw that in the notes. Cool. Well, thanks again for coming on. It was really great speaking with you and learning more about Optimove.